welcome to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones Cooper. Today, I'm chatting with comedian Sam Morril, who has appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and numerous comedy specials over the years. But now, he's teamed up with Amy Schumer for his first one-hour stand-up special on Comedy Central called Positive Influence, where he jokes about his exes, crappy customer service, and why he believes porn is more body positive than women's magazines. Let's take a look.
Like, I know comics that go to the same therapist as me. I was in the waiting room the other day and I actually heard my therapist laugh through the door. And I was like, oh, I gotta bring it again this week. I took a depression test online the other day, which I think means I have it. I quit watching porn. I cut back. I'm the type of Jew that if you don't like Jewish people, I'm not the one that's gonna turn things around for you. I saw a baby in the coffee shop the other day. He was wearing a t-shirt that said, I love life. I was like, you'll grow out of it. I like babies, but you know what's better than a baby by a little is not having a baby. Most women I know, they look at sex like buying a car. You're like, can I see myself in this long term? Most guys I know, they look at sex like parking a car. We're like, there's a spot. There's another spot. Oh, I have to pay? Never mind. Handicapped. Hope no one sees this.
Everyone put your hands together for Sam Morril.
Thank you. All right. Always nice to start on the most tasteless joke in the special.
I was like, so how do you feel about handicapped people? No, I'm joking. Do not answer that question. No. How fun is it to see that trailer, though? I know the work that goes into being a stand-up, and you're getting your first 1 hour special.
Yeah, it's cool. It's pretty crazy. They just cut it together, and there it is. You know, it's definitely cool. I definitely think a couple people stopped me for a picture outside. I definitely think they think I'm someone else. I was like, I'm not Mr. Bean. They were like, oh, that's too bad. But, you know.
Who else do you get mistaken for? That's a good
I've gotten mean adjectives followed by Michael Phelps, like a bad version of Michael Phelps. You know what I mean? Someone said you're like Michael Phelps from the neck up. I'm like, yeah, I didn't assume I had his body, you know?
You are tall, though.
I'm tall.
Yeah, you're taller in person than you look on this.
And I swim, but I swim at the rec center with like old Jews. I'm not swimming in like a cool Olympian type of way, you know?
So tell me how this special came together, because you've done stuff on Comedy Central in the past, but this is your 1 hour whole thing, so I know that's a little different.
Yeah, well, it came together. I was doing some road gigs with Amy, and she was just like, we were flying back on her helicopter. This is a very relatable story for everyone. And it was me, Amy, and her mom was quoting some of my jokes. And I had this joke her mom quoted where I said, you women are amazing because you can fake an orgasm, but you can't fake a good mood. And didn't do well in here. It does well on stage, guys. No worries. But yeah, Amy's like, oh yeah, I like that joke a lot. I like a lot of your jokes. I would totally want to produce a special if you made one. I was like, oh well, I feel like I'm pretty close. So that's just kind of how it happened.
And this is a weird question, but it's something I'm curious about. How do you know when you've made it as a comedian? Because to have Amy Schumer basically co-signing you, putting her name behind your special, and then for it to be on Comedy Central, which is the destination, right, for comedy, are you like, cool, I can retire now?
No. No, I can't retire. It's a nice thing. It feels good, but I think it's just the beginning, your first hour special, you know? It's not like it's your first max NBA contract, you know? You still got to work. But I do feel like it's the beginning. It's like kind of the intro for a lot of people to me, hopefully. And I want to put out another one soon for sure.
And I see your hat. You're a New York native.
Yes.
Go Knicks.
I'm a Knicks fan.
So take me through how you found comedy, because this is sort of like a mecca for it, really.
Yeah. How did I find comedy? Well, it actually started in high school. We had to do like a project and then do a performance. Like a speech, not a performance. We do a speech for the whole school, and I just turned mine into a stand-up routine. I was working with kids, and it was terrible, but everyone laughed. So it gave me this false sense of confidence. I was like, I'm ready. And then I started doing open mics, and they were like, you're fucking horrible.
What does it feel like to bomb those first few times?
It's a weird feeling where it's like horrible, but you're like, I got to do it again. It's like, it's kind of like falling in love with a horrible person. Because you're like, you're the worst person I've ever met, but I need to do this. What are you doing tomorrow?
So comedy is like Stockholm Syndrome, is what you're saying? You're just like so in love with it, but it definitely beats you? Yeah,
it beats you up, but then also you get like a fluke. I think Colin Quinn would always say, you get just enough not to quit. Just enough. And that's how I felt. Like I would have one good set, and I'd be like, oh, that's how good I am. I could do this again. I want to feel that feeling again. And then, you're terrible for years.
What I love throughout the special is you're sort of testing the audience. You're like, oh, you laughed at that? Good, I'm going to keep moving on. Because I'm sure depending on where you're doing your stand-up around the U.S., jokes don't always play.
Yeah, it depends on the market. I mean, Portland, very sensitive people in Portland. I think it's the lack of protein. I don't know what's going on there. But no, you go to certain markets and they're definitely a little more tight. And you got to figure out where you can go. But that's also so much of comedy is like seeing how far we get put. I mean, that's my childhood. Is my mom is a very prim and proper woman. And my whole childhood was rebelling against that. I'd say something horrible and then she'd be like, Sam. And that's the basis of all my comedy right there, is her saying that.
Does she love that now that you're a comedian?
No, she hates it. I did the Tonight Show on Monday, and my mom was there, and Cory Booker came in the room, and he's like, how do you say that in front of your mother? And I'm like, well, that's a clean set for the Tonight Show. She's seen worse. Yeah, it's weird to be doing a comedy show and see your mom in the crowd putting her head down in embarrassment. I'm like, well, you didn't have to come. Doesn't make me feel good to
But
see
she
that.
did. It was the Tonight Show.
Yeah, she wants to support you, but she also wants to be like, what the hell is this? So,
and that was your first time on the Tonight Show?
That was my first time on that one, yeah.
So what is that like? It's super iconic. And do you really have to taper down your set to be a little more universal or commercial or whatever?
Yeah, it's a lot of these late night shows take whatever is desirable about you and cookie cutter it up to the point they're like, well, this isn't comedy. I feel like I'm doing a corporate gig or something, I'm like, what is this, Delta Dental? What is going on?
You're like, I'll do it if I can get insurance, though, because that shit's expensive.
I would like some, yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this special, too, and talk about some of the inappropriate jokes
Sure.
a little bit that I took a lot of joy in. And it also brings me to the broader topic of how is it to do comedy in such a PC culture. So you mentioned a story about alligators at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And how the little boy was attacked by an alligator and lost his life. And you decided to make a joke about it, but it was a woman's response to it that was the funny part.
Right. It's not, people that will get triggered by it will be like, you made fun of a dead baby, but it's just, the dead baby just served as a vehicle for me to mock outrage culture, really. I mean, I did take a few shots of the baby. He knows what he did. But look, it's an outrage time, and there's some comics who will be like the PC police, but I always find that like, what makes you sound like an older white man than being like the PC police? So you just got to find a way to make it funny, and that's kind of what I feel like when someone writes me an angry email. I usually find it kind of funny. Yeah.
We see in your set as well.
I did a gig once and in South Carolina, and I bombed. It was like after a breakup, I bombed so hard. This crowd just like, I think I was like a young kid being like, love is dead. And they were all married. They were like, shut up, you're a kid. And this woman wrote me this long email afterwards, and she was like, I just want to save you. You seem like a troubled soul. And I was like, at first, like, shut up, leave me alone. But then I was also like, oh, she meant well, But it's just, that's how people connect, how they connect. And some people, this outrage seems like a form of entertainment for them. Like I did a show in Syracuse a couple weeks ago, and this woman just approached me after the show, and I was expecting her to be like, hey, can I ask you, she was like, can I ask you a serious question? I was expecting her to be like, how do you do it? Like, how do you come up with the gold? And she goes, are you just fucking with us? And I was like, excuse me? And she goes, I want to punch you in the throat. Wow. And I was like, I guess she's not a fan.
Or is she?
Maybe that's just her thing. I don't know. But so certain people, violence aside, they get a kick out of being offended. Like that, she was there alone. I feel like maybe she wanted some sort of interaction. I don't know. But some people want to be offended, and other people, maybe they are. I don't know. I can't tell what goes in it, but I think as a comic, you have to stay funny. Like she reacted so emotionally that if I went to that level, it would suck. What's the point? Like to me, you've lost the argument when you get emotional. So you have to stay disconnected as a comic and stay funny, or you're ruined.
Is there anything that's kind of like, you're like, I'm not going to touch that, it's off limits?
No, anything is fair game.
That's what I've noticed. And I enjoy that in you, though. It's like there's so much heavy stuff going on. It's like if you can't make fun of it, then what's the point?
Well, it's like, as you said, that joke is not really about a dead baby. It's like some people just hear a word and they're triggered by it, and they're like, that's offensive. But you're like, well, that's not what it was. It's like, I mean, just because I say a word and something, it doesn't mean the joke. It doesn't mean that I'm, endorsing something horrible. That means that I'm trying to find something funny about it. And, we all have different levels to which we want to go. But what's weird to me is when I find something that bothers me on TV, and I'm like, oh, I didn't like that. I just changed the channel. I don't write a letter and be like, how dare you? So
Internet culture is super weird like that too. People feel really entitled to say something, and it's like, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to watch this.
Totally. Yeah, it's weird, I think, because now we all get addicted to those likes and those clicks. So we just post something, and it's like, if it gets something, you're like, oh, my voice is being valued and heard. I'm going to keep going. And you get addicted to just going. And not everyone used to have that power, but now a lot of people have that power.
Something really welcoming about your special was that there was no politics in it.
Right.
So how much of that was a conscious decision where you were like, I do not need to bring up Trump or anything? Like, it's just so overdone? Is that why?
Here's the thing with Trump is that I feel like every late night show, it's like, there are like 6 late night shows. It's all white dudes, and they're all liberal. So it's like, it feels so similar. It's them tackling the same story. Then Fallon gets crap for not doing enough of it. It's like, well, do you want every show to be exactly the same? There's almost like people think there's like an obligation. In the 60s, it was like Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce, and those were the only political comics. Now every comic's like, here's my take on Trump. And you're like, shut up, you've done 2 open mics, okay? Take it down a notch. So everyone thinks, as I said, their voice is super important. For me, this is my first hour. I don't want to go too political. I want everyone to laugh, except easily triggered people. As I said before, they can go fuck themselves. But the rest, I want you guys all to laugh. And I don't think Trump jokes are going to age super well. The way, like, you know what I mean? Like Reagan, you hear a Reagan joke now on an old album and you're like, what? Yeah. But then if you hear someone talking about, like, you know, the Gulf War or something like the early 90s or whatever, then you're like, oh, that was it. Like Bill Hicks has those bits, and some of those, like, history repeats itself with Bush and then Bush again. So those are kind of interesting to hear. But then when it becomes just about the politician rather than the subject, I think it has a shelf life and becomes less interesting.
How much prep then goes into choosing which jokes that you're going to put into this hour special? I'm sure you're probably testing it at shows all around. And then do you have any feedback from other comedians? They're like, should I put in this political joke?
Yeah.
Should I leave it out? Like, what is that process like?
Not really for that, but for, like, is this hacky? Has this been done before? I have friends who I'm like, have you heard this angle? Is this original? And sometimes they're like, what are you, stupid? That was done 10 years ago, you know? But a lot of time they're like, yeah, that's good. Do that. Keep going with that. And and you test it in different markets. I want the jokes to be funny for everyone, so I take it, because then it's easier for me to defend. If I'm like, oh, I took this joke to Albany, I took it to Tampa, I took it to Cleveland, I took it to Seattle, Arizona. You go to all these different markets, and you're like, well, all these jokes hit every weekend, all weekend on every show. I believe that there are strong jokes now, because if I like them and the crowd likes them, then I'm like, all right. So yeah, I think you do have to workshop the hell out of the jokes for sure.
That's always something I've been curious about too, is the original aspect. I feel like at this point it would be so hard to come up with an original angle. Is that something that you're fearful of? Because you do see comedians get taken down from time to time for, recycling jokes, but it's like, they put their own spin on it, but is anything truly original anymore?
It is. I think, like, people will be like, well, that's a hack subject. And to me, there's no hack subject. Like, someone will be like, we only talked about relationships. I'm like, well, I talked about my relationships. I found my own turn on it. You know what I mean? So I don't believe in I do think the Trump stuff, unless you find a great angle on it, it can get a little tedious for me. Because he's tedious. He's an exhausting person. So this guy is, like, legit. He's just trolling us all day on the internet. And then you want to talk about him more? Like, I'm tired from it. You know what I mean? I like escapist comedy. I love what Conan's doing right now, where he's just funny, and that I think that's undervalued in comedy. Not everything has to be head on. Not everything has to be spoon fed to people. I like when we can kind of take what we like about comedy, and it's what we like personally, and not just we have to, I don't know.
Well, you mentioned relationships, and that's something that's always going to be universal. And I'm wondering, you do, like, open up a lot about sort of exes and things like that. Does that make it difficult for you to date? Like, girls are like, no, man, I saw your stand-up. Like, I'm just going to end up as a punchline.
Yeah, so on a first date, I'll be like, hold on, you said something really stupid. Let me write this down really quickly. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not good with women. I'm terrible. But I've had a lot of failed relationships lately. I don't know. One in particular, and that's maybe the subject of this special. But it was the same girl for like 3 years on and off, so it was like a reopening of the wound again and again. She's a good person. I hope she's happy. I don't know. But it does. It doesn't feel good when it goes badly. So when they laugh in the crowd, it definitely makes you feel a little better, like it's something that they connect to as well. But yeah, I think just being a comic, it's like, it's not a great sell. It's like, hey, do you like guys that are always out of town? Do you like it when dinner's never an option? Okay, wait, it gets better. I drink all the time. Still not sold? I don't know. It's like, no, I mean, the one good thing, we're also narcissists. I mean, we're in our head like the thing of jokes, we have to be in our head all day. And that's like, so it's like, they'll be talking. I'm like, hold on, I thought of a dick joke. Let me just get this. What was that about your dead mom? Sorry, so it's like, we're complete narcissists. You know, we're not the best to date, I would say.
That takes me to...
That wasn't a good sales pitch, but look.
You know, there's a woman for every comedian.
We're sensitive mostly. I'd say comics are sensitive. There is that combination between thick and thin-skinned, which we are because we're super sensitive, but we're also, you do have to have some emotional toughness to just completely eat shit in front of strangers. I bombed a benefit last night, and here's how stupid I am. It's a benefit for this kid that I guess overdosed on drugs and alcohol, and I forgot, so I just went on stage and I told this joke about drinking on muscle relaxers, and I was like, I wonder why am I bombing? And then I was like, I got off stage, they were like, he died from that, and I was like, oh, I made a mistake.
You're just like, my bad.
I was like, what is this, some benefit where someone died of an overdose or something? They were like, yes, it was.
It actually is. What I mentioned in your intro was the line. I think one of the funniest bits in this the whole thing was when you're comparing kind of porn and women's magazines, and I have never heard that angle before, and it was so spot on.
Yeah.
So can you just take me to
it's
a
kind
little
of
bit
a feminist take,
how you
right?
came into this feminist take that porn actually does more for women encouragement than women's magazines.
Well, yeah, the joke is every women's magazine is like how to shed that last 10 pounds, but porn is like you're perfect, and we have a category for you right here, right? You're not fat in porn, you're a big, beautiful woman. You're not old, you're mature. You're not covered in semen, you're getting a facial. Tasteful comedy. But, it's a couple porn stars reposted that I saw, and I was like, hey, you're welcome. But, yeah, that's one of those bits. I love bits that kind of start with a premise that people think is false. And then by the end, they're like, all right, it was fun enough. I'm glad we kind of went there. So that's fun about that bit to me. I like jokes that are kind of crass, but then also, progressive.
It's progressive and thoughtful, and I could see a whole think piece on this, honestly, of like women being like down with Cosmo, up with porn.
I like that I made a jizz joke, and she's like, we could do a whole think piece on this. This is really...
I'm very sex
We're
positive,
pushing this pretty
guys.
far.
Very sex positive. Whatever works. And I have to point out, your voice is so fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
You give me like that Will Arnett kind of Batman kind of thing.
Sure.
Have you ever thought about doing any voiceover work?
Yeah, my agent sends me on a ton of stuff, and they're always like, we're good. I don't know. I've gotten the Will Arnett comment before. I guess I have a deep voice. I don't know. The Batman thing, that sounds good. That sounds, I should be Batman. I heard John Hamm's lobbying for it, but fuck that guy. What's he ever done? Shit. Mad Men. That was a good show. Look.
It's been downhill since then.
No, he's great. He's a great actor. I don't know why I said that. I'm going to start a John Hamm beef, guys. What do you think?
If Nicki Minaj can beef with anybody, you can beef with John Hamm.
She does that, right? I think that's a good move. There's not enough comedy beef. I should just start some East Coast, West Coast shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for a minute, Kevin Hart was trying to beef with like Mike Epps.
Right.
And then it was just like, guys, stop. Like, stop it.
It's weird. We're just like rap, it's like they're tough and they bravado. Comics, we're mostly pussies. I mean, like Tupac, it's like, that's why I fucked your bitch. There's no comics like rap like that. I'm like, that's why I masturbated to your girlfriend? That's what I got? I don't know.
Have you thought about, branching out beyond stand-up and going into any comedy acting? Is that something you want to do, or do you really just like to stay and do?
I'm a comic if they spoon feed me a role, I'll take. If they're like, here, you can be Batman, I'll be like, I'll think about it and get back to you. But if it's like, I'm sick of auditioning. You go in the parts are horribly written. You go in for like I already feel guilt. I'm like spending all this time memorizing it. Then I go in, they're like, read it for a cheese dick #1. I'm like, all right, hello, and they're like, nah, please leave. So no, I'm not. I'm done with that shit. I'm not doing that. But if it's someone like, hey, we got this thing for you, I'll do it. But I'm a comic. I like writing. That time I'm memorizing that shit. I could be writing jokes. I could be getting better as a comic. I could be, doing something I want to do. So I don't want to do anymore.
Speaking of, do you have any shows coming up? Because I know people are going to see this special that comes out tomorrow and be like, I want to see this guy live.
I'm at the Comedy Cellar like every night, but I'm
I love that
in the
place.
city.
Okay.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can walk there from here. I'm at the Cellar all the time. I'm in Fairfield, Connecticut at Stage 1 this Saturday. This Saturday, I don't know why I said Saturday. I had a stroke just then, guys. Sorry. Saturday, Stage 1 Theater in Fairfield, Connecticut. The following weekend, I'm at the Atlanta Punchline. Then in October, I got like Tampa, Side Splitters. I got Cleveland Hilarities, Dayton Funny Bone. Got Grand Rapids coming up. A lot of fun.
Everywhere.
Cities. I like Grand Rapids. I like cities like that where they're like, you go there and there's nothing to see at all. You're like, oh, I'll just drink coffee and stuff. I don't have to do anything here. No one's like, you didn't see the thing in Grand Rapids? No, they're drunk. So all they do is drink beer all the day.
And eat.
Yeah, and eat.
It's fantastic.
A lot of like kielbasa type stuff, I think.
I love it.
That was a good sales pitch for my shows in Grand Rapids. You guys are drunks and you're fat.
I think now's a good time to go to the audience really quick. We have a couple questions.
Hey, Sam, I'm Jerry. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jerry.
I know you said you're looking to start beef with comedians, but have there been comedians that you've emulated through the years or growing up?
Yeah, I think you always sound like people you look up to at first. I mean, when I started, I love Rodney Dangerfield because he was just always funny. So I love Dangerfield. Dave Attell's always been one of my favorite comics because he's just so silly and funny. But Dangerfield was, to me, like, I think like Dangerfield and Back to School is maybe the funniest performance ever. Just the idea that like, I love the idea that your life could be just in shambles and you stay funny. Like there's that scene where his wife, he just walks in on her cheating on him and she's like, oh, you're impossible. He goes, oh yeah, and you're easy. Like what's better than that you stay in joke form during your divorce? Like, I mean, to me that was like, oh, that's what I want to be. I want to stay funny. I don't know. So Dangerfield was like, to me, I loved him. So funny. Oh, no problem.
Next question.
Hi. So I was wondering if there's any major difference between filming a stand-up show versus one that's not being filmed. And obviously, it hasn't come out, but I assume it was in a much bigger venue, probably with a lot more people. And so I was wondering what the difference is between the vibe of that and a place like the Comedy Cellar, which is much smaller and more intimate and not being shown on Comedy Central.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the Cellar is just, it's more comfortable and more chill. The good thing about this was when I taped this, I flub a line, I could retake it if I wanted, or like I could, at the end, you do pickups, so you come back out, you're like, Amy would be like, could you say this again this way? Whereas like I've done my half-hour special, you're part of a series, so you can do that, but you have one take, I did 2 shows for this one, so that's a big difference. And then at the Cellar, it's more of a workout room. Not that I'm going out and open micing it the way someone like Chris Rock would do it. I'm still trying to kill in there because of where I am versus where he is. But it's lower stakes. You have a room you're comfortable in, you go up every night, and that's what the clubs are for, is developing that next hour and sneaking in each new joke. And so that's like the workout room, and there's like the finished product kind of.
How helpful was it to have Amy on the side to help you sort of navigate this special?
She's great, man. She's so easy to work with, and so I mean, it's cool when someone is that successful and famous, but also such a mensch and such a normal person, So she's there's the opening for this special. I'm in Barney Greengrass, and it's in black and white, and we tried to make it look artistic, and that's just basically me picking up an 80-something-year-old woman. So that was completely Amy. Like, she was just guiding that, that was all her idea. And she could be, I think, a great comedy director just because you just trust what she say is going to be funny and that she won't make you look stupid. Yeah. And I did look a little stupid, but it was funny,
It's been really fun to watch her career because you see her with like Chris and Dave Chappelle, and you can see that she's like taking and then kind of creating her own lane, with, like helping different talent.
Totally.
I think that's like, it seems like a really good community to be a part of, because it could be really competitive what I'm saying, and it seems like
it's such a funny word to use for Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Amy. This is the community right here.
Standard. Best friend. And one last question before we go.
Hi.
Hey.
I was wondering, how do you kind of draw the line between jokes that may not be funny or may be flawed and I guess PC or oversensitive, what you defined as like oversensitive outrage.
Yeah.
And also, do you ever listen to those people who might in your words like be triggered by one of the jokes that you tell?
Yeah, I think it's good to listen. I mean, the problem is usually when someone comes up to you after a show and they're like, "I've got a little note for you," they're a moron. But occasionally they'll say something that I'm like, "Oh, I did a show I remember once in Baltimore, and this woman came up to me and she's like, this was years ago. I didn't know the word tranny was a slur. I said that word in a joke, not in a malicious way, but I just said that word." And, because so many jokes are about syllables or sounds, and that was just a quicker word than transgendered or. So she said, I really enjoyed the show, but we're the parents of a transgendered kid, and that's a slur. And I said, I had no idea. So in that way, I think it's helpful to listen. But there's also, and I changed the word, and now I'm like thrilled. It's on like a special on album. It's gonna age much better. You don't want to have that joke like some of those Eddie Murphy '80s bits where you're like, ooh, these are not progressive takes on homosexuals. But from a guy who's dressed in tight leather, ironically. But
Tight red leather.
but yeah, I think I'm always open to being wrong. I look at some jokes and I was like, that's not. It's like, of course, if I'm going after something that's a little more edgy or risky, there's a good chance it might not age well. There's a good chance it just might not be a great joke. If I put in something, I hope it's a good joke, but there's a chance it won't be. So you always run that risk. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to stand behind everything you say, but then at the same time, I love that Joan Rivers just won't apologize, because I think giving them that apology, it's like, what are we becoming when these people are like, we demand an apology? And it's like, well, what was her intent? I don't think her intent was ever to like really upset people. So I think an apology should be, I don't know, you should actually be sorry. I don't understand why people are so hungry for an apology that means nothing, that they're just like, oh, I'm forced, so I have to apologize. So I have felt sorry and I've said sorry, but there are also times when I'm like, no, I think you're just a troll, and I think you have an agenda, and you work for a website where this lines up with what you want to do and humiliate me, and you've taken jokes of mine out of context. So there's a line to walk, and that's the risk you run when you go to that area, and it can be but the problem is, you start in these open mics where the only way you can get their attention is by saying something shocking. So that's almost how you train yourself, and then after a while, you have to navigate that and just get better. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think the way you answered it is, I think a lot of people feel that way. If you are really sorry, be sorry.